Hey everyone, it's Matt here again. It's been a couple weeks since the last update. A lot has happened, and so I just wanted to give you a fair update. I guess particularly focused around what it means to serve on mercy ships and the heart behind that. So since I last kind of messaged you guys, there was some developments in terms of how the ship conducts and the policies it has in place to protect itself against COVID-19. Now, as being part of a ship, it has industry standards, the maritime industry standards that it has to adhere to, and there have been some new kind of regulations and policies set out by the maritime industry. And so like the precautions, the social distancing measures and things like that, they've all increased. So essentially anytime I'm outside my cabin and I'm out here, I have to put a mask on. I have to be 2 meters away. We can't sing inside. We can sing outside. Even if we're out on the dock, we have to keep our masks on unless we're doing exercise, unless we're going for a run, or some people like to cycle. So, I mean, I know for the majority of people watching that sounds like pretty standard issue regulations, but considering that we're all kind of in close proximity to each other, it's not just you're not living next to kind of different people. You essentially the whole village is on the ship, So some people have found it pretty tough on community aspect, on the social aspect, and I'd imagine it's tough on the mental health side as it is just even outside the ship. I know that's a growing concern for people going through this pandemic, but yeah, to say the least, it has gotten tougher. Why I set that tone is because, I mentioned a few weeks back, part of my role is I'm working on the dining room team. I started off just working kind of in the dishwashing side, and as some people had to leave and go back home, essentially by default I have become one of the dining room team leads, so leading the team, and that's been significant because with the increasing measures in place, I'm kind of one of the people who has to implement those changes specifically in the dining room, and that's been particularly difficult because the dining room, as we know, anytime you're having a meal, it's oftentimes the best place to build relationship. And during these increase in regulations, it's been the only place people can really kind of gather and spend time and communicate with each other and share some good food. And so it's been an interesting one to try and kind of find the balance between how do we, as a holistic approach, take care of people, make sure they're having that community factor in their lives at the moment, and looking for their well-being, but also protecting them, and therefore protecting the long-term mission of what the ship wants to do. So there's been an increase in the hours, I guess. Well, it's been a bit more intense in terms of the general work, I would say, and that's been particularly draining on me physically, but much is the same for everyone else going through it. The other dining room team, so we have 2 teams who rotate. It's the same, so I'm not kind of putting myself out that I'm doing anything more than the rest, but just to let you guys know that it's been a bit more difficult. But with that, it's been a fantastic way to grow when you're put in kind of a position of leadership, and you have to kind of be proactive and use initiative and be considerate of the impact of the decisions and the changes made. It's a tough one. So the crew's been very gracious to each other, but yeah, we still want to kind of keep moving forward and kind of taking care of each other in the best way possible. I've actually been reading this book called When Helping Hurts. It's a really interesting book that's kind of just more of a general kind of missional response to how do we help people. That's been what I've been focusing on the last couple of weeks. Still not finished it yet, but I just recommend that as a good book to read for anyone looking to get stuck into the mission field, for long-term missions predominantly. But yeah, that's essentially been what I've been getting up to. There was essentially my cabin mate had a bit of a stomach bug one day, and as we're taking precautions, as I'm sharing a room with him, for the sake of protecting the rest of the crew, we were both kind of put in isolation and quarantine, so that wasn't fun. My cabin doesn't have a window, so I was kind of just locked away. Food was brought to my door, but I was locked away for maybe 36 hours until they kind of were able to get a COVID test done, and it wasn't COVID, thankfully. And then they found out it was a stomach bug, but then we're able to kind of deal with that a little bit differently. But yeah, it's not fun being kind of locked away on your own, especially for myself, who's an extrovert. Yeah, I was not keen on that. But yes, moving forward into the next few weeks, there's going to be still ongoing changes we're trying to make and implement things to make things easier on the crew. Right now, one of the big things is making sure that we can serve everyone appropriately. The queue times at the moment, because we're doing kind of social distancing measures with the queue to get fed, and so I think there's been reduced numbers of people showing up to get food because the queue is just so long. So we're just kind of, I'm going into a bit of the practical things of what's going on, which maybe you guys don't really need to know or care about, but just say even the smallest things we take into consideration, and that's part of, I guess, when you're looking at how to serve well, I think that's what you need to do as a whole, is take it from a very foundational level, from a very kind of basic, how does this decision affect someone else's day? One thing I've been thinking about a lot is every time I try and make my life a bit easier to get the work done, it makes someone else's life a little bit harder, because essentially the same work does need to get done. So if I take a shortcut, someone else has to take the long cut. Maybe that's something to you guys to take with you. I don't know if that helps at all. But also, side note, it would be, I've really been benefiting from the Bible studies. I was looking up there because my Bible's on the shelf, and I'm about to go to that as well. And that's been great to be able to kind of sit socially distanced apart and still engage in scripture, still kind of nurture and grow as the body, and yeah, really challenge each other, and iron sharpening iron. It's been good to reflect on scripture and stay focused and stay true to the word. And keeps you hungry. So yeah, that's a big positive that I've been going through. And lastly, I would say I wanted to mention, as I'm coming, so we're kind of first quarter of October. I'm leaving Mercy Ships on the 1st of November. So I would love and appreciate some prayers into, I guess, that kind of middle phase between me going back home, the travel and logistics there. Obviously, we know week on week the policies, the government guidelines are changing for travel across Europe and things like that. So would like it to be an easy process, a smooth transition, and hopefully can plan for the next mission trip, which will be in France for the winter season, and I'll be able to talk about that in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, appreciate your prayers, everyone. Feel free to message me, reach out to me for any questions. I do have some time on my hands, and obviously if I'm on my own, I'm in my cabin, so feel free. I do have Wi-Fi, so I can connect and chat to people. But yeah, it'd be good to hear from you. As I say, I'm doing well. It's been a very growing season, specifically within how to serve well, and I'm sure it'll be life lessons I take with me in terms of long-term overseas mission, which is what I've been wanting for a long time. So I'm excited. Thanks very much. God bless.